Hello, everybody. I'm Craig Johnson. Today's literary lockdown might hit a little bit closer to home. In the late 1990s, I was part of a small theater company here in the Twin Cities with Antai Bilgatai and Brian Columbus that was called Upstart Theater. Our mission was classic texts for contemporary audiences. And in 1997, I developed a one-man show called The Diary of Samuel Pepys that was entirely made up of entries from the Diary of Samuel Pepys. People seemed to like the show, and I performed it numerous times between 1997 and 2000. Samuel Pepys, if you don't know, was just a regular guy who was born in London in 1633. As a boy, though, he witnessed the beheading of Charles I, and that marked the overthrow of the monarchy and the beginning of 11 years of puritanical rule under Oliver Cromwell. Pepys went to Cambridge University. He got married. His wife's name was Elizabeth. And then he began a career in the London offices of the Royal Navy. He began his diary in 1660 and kept it for 10 years. And after that, he never returned to it. In addition to, extraordinarily detailed observations just of daily life during the Restoration, Pepys always seemed to be at the great events of that decade: the coronation of Charles II, which restored the monarchy, and the Great Fire of London. He also lived through the Great Plague that swept through London in 1665. So here are a few of his diary entries that describe how one person and one household and one society got through 8 months of a terrible epidemic in 1665. May 24th. All the news is of a plague growing upon us in this town, and of remedies against it, some one thing, some another. June 15th. The town grows very sickly, and people to be afeard of it. They're dying this week of the plague, 112 from 43 the week before. June 17th. It struck me very deep this afternoon, going with hackney coach from my Lord Treasurer's down Holborn. The coachman I found to drive easily and easily, at last stood still and come down, hardly able to stand, and told me that he was suddenly struck very sick and almost blind. He could not see. So I light and went into another coach with a sad heart for the poor man and trouble for myself. June 29th. To Whitehall Palace, where the court, full of wagons and people ready to go out of the town. This end of the town every day grows very bad of the plague. The mortality bill is come to 267, which is about 90 more than the last. July 3rd. Resolving from this night forwards to end all my business at the office by daylight, the season growing so sickly. So after supper to bed, and mightily troubled in my sleep all the night with dreams of Jack Cole, my old schoolfellow, lately dead, who was born at the same time with me, and we reckoned our fortunes pretty equal. God fit me for his condition. July 26th. Down to Greenwich, to the park, where I hear the King and Duke are come by water this morn from Hampton Court. They asked me several questions. The King mightily pleased with his new buildings there. But hearing him and the Duke talk, and seeing and observing their manner of discourse, and God forgive me, though I admire them with all duty possible, yet the more a man considers and observes them, the less he finds of difference between them and other men. Though, blessed be God, they are both princes of great nobleness and spirits. The Duke is the most skittish leaping gallant that ever I saw, always in action, vaulting or leaping or clamouring. The sickness has got into our parish this week, and has got, indeed, I believe, everywhere, so that I begin to think of setting things in order. August 10th, to the office. In great trouble to see the bill this week rise so high, to above 4,000 in all, and of them above 3,000 of the plague, and an odd story of Alderman Bent's stumbling at night over a dead corpse in the street, and going home and telling his wife she, at the fright, being with child, fell sick and died of the plague. Thence home, to draw over anew my will, which I had bound myself by oath to dispatch by tomorrow night. The town grows so unhealthy that a man cannot depend on living 2 days to an end. August 12th. The people die so that now it seems that they are fain to carry the dead by daylight, the night's not sufficient to do it in. And my Lord Mayor commands people to be within at 9 at night, all, as they say, that the sick may have liberty to go abroad for air. August 15th, up by 4 o'clock, and to Greenwich, where called at Captain Cox, where something put my last night's dream into my head, and I think it was the best that ever was dreamt, which was that I had my Lady Castlemaine in my arms, and was admitted to use all the dalliance I desired with her, and then dreamt that this could not be awake, but that it was only a dream, but that since it was a dream, and that I took such pleasure in it, what a happy thing it would be if, when we are in our graves, as Shakespeare resembles it, we could dream and dream such dreams as this. Then we should not need to be so fearful of death as we are this plague time. It was dark before I could get home, and so land at Churchyard Stairs, where, to my great trouble, I met a dead corpse of the plague in the narrow alley, just bringing down a little pair of stairs. I should beware of being late abroad again. August 31st. In the city died this week 7,496, and of them 6,102 of the plague, but it is feared that the true number of the dead this week is near 10,000. Partly from the poor, who cannot be taken notice of through the greatness of the number, and partly from the Quakers and others that will not have any bell ring for them. September 3rd, my Lord Brontner, Sir John Mennies, and I up to the vestry at the desire of the justices of the peace in order to do something for the keeping of the plague from growing. But, Lord, consider the madness of the people of the town, who will, because they are forbid, come in crowds along with the dead corpses to see them buried. But we agreed on some order for the prevention thereof. Among other stories, one was very passionate, methought, of a complaint brought against a man of the town for taking a child from an infected house. Alderman Hooker told us it was a child of a very able citizen in Gracious Street, a saddler, who had buried all the rest of his children of the plague, and himself and his wife, now being shut up, and in despair of escaping, did desire only to save the life of this little child, and so prevailed to have it received, stark naked, into the arms of a friend who brought it to Greenwich. Upon hearing the story, we did agree it should be permitted to be received. September 14th. When I came home, I spent some thoughts upon the occurrences of this day, giving matter for as much content on the one hand and melancholy on the other as any day in all my life. For the first, the finding of my money and plate, all safe at London and speeding in my business of money this day. Adding to that the decrease of 500 and more, which is the first decrease we have had in the sickness since it begun, and great hopes that the next week will be greater. And then, on the other side, my finding that though the bill in general is abated, yet the city within the walls is increased, and likely to continue so, and is close to our house. My meeting dead corpses of the plague carried to be buried close by me at noonday through the city, to see a person sick of the sores carried close by me by Grace Church in a hackney coach, my finding the Angel Tavern at the lower end of Tower Hill shut up, and more than that, the alehouse at the Tower Stairs, and more than that a person was then dying of the plague when I was last there, to hear that poor Payne, my waterman, hath buried a child and is dying himself, to hear that a labourer I sent but the other day to Degham's to know how they did there is now dead of the plague, to hear that Mr. Lewes hath another daughter sick, and lastly that both of my servants, Will Ewers and Tom Edwards, have lost their fathers of the plague this week, doth put me into great apprehensions of melancholy, and with good reason. But I put off thoughts of sadness as much as I can, and the rather to keep my wife in good heart and family also. After supper, having had nothing all day, we to bed. November 15th. The plague, blessed be God, is decreased 400, making the whole this week but 1,300 and odd. November 30th, great joy we have this week in the weekly bill, it being come to 544 in all. December 25th, Christmas Day, to church this morning, and there saw a wedding in the church which I had not seen in many a day, and the young people so merry with one another. And strange to see what delight we married people have to see these poor fools decoyed into our condition, every man and woman gazing and smiling at them. December 31st. 1665. Thus the year ends. The plague is abated almost to nothing. My whole family hath been well all this while, but many of such as I know very well, dead. Yet, to our great joy, the town fills apace, and shops begin to open again. Pray God continue the plague's decrease.